Hello everyone. Today we're going to be making a carrot soup. Now this is just a really simple, easy way to make this carrot soup. Now the first thing you want to do is put your oven on for 400 degrees and you bring out your carrots out of the refrigerator. You wash them off and you start the process of peeling them. Now I like to use a paper bag. I set it in my sink. And I take the carrot and I'll hold it and I just go like this and everything falls in the bag. And then once that's all my carrots are done, then I have a bag full of carrot pellets that I can just throw the whole thing in the compost. Now, the next thing I would do is I will have the carrots in the pan, and I'm going to put, for this amount of carrots, I'm going to probably put about a third, well not a third, about a fourth of a cup of olive oil. And I drizzle it on top and roll the carrots all around there, and I set them in the oven at that 400 degree temperature. And they're going to go for about 40 minutes, and at that point they start getting a little bit brown on the top, and that's where I want them to be. I want them to be looking like that, because that's what really makes the taste in them. Okay, so then the other thing, once I bring them out now, at that point, I'm going to be using vegetable broth. Now with the vegetable broth, I simply just use the one I showed you last time in one of the other videos, this one. But now if you are on a sodium strict diet, this of one and a half teaspoon to 1 cup of water is about 500 and something milligrams. I forget now, what is it? 520 milligrams. That's quite a bit. But you can make your own, or you could cut it down a little bit. You could just use 1 teaspoon to make it a little bit less. Or you could just make your own by simply doing a pot with like say some parsley, maybe some spinach if you wanted spinach, some celery, some onions, some carrots in that, and you would cook that down until you have like a broth and then strain that off, okay? And you could use that. But in this case, I'm just using the commercial stuff. All right, so now the other thing that we would do, let me turn my camera over here so you can see this. Okay. Now, I want to make sure it doesn't fall off. I always have it up on top of the stuff. Okay, so now my broth is over here. So I'm going to stir that 1.5 teaspoon in 1 cup of water. And I've got about approximately 8 cups of water. But I'm not going to use all the 8 cups of water of broth right away. I'm going just to kind of just put like half of it. And we'll see how that comes out. So I'm going to first add the broth. And if you can do hot water, that would be great. You can put this in a microwave and warm it up. Okay, that should be plenty right there. Now, that's about 4 cups of water there. Well, it's got almost 5, it says there. One of the measurements are off on this. It's either the glass one or it's the Vitamix. Okay, then at that point, I want to take my carrots and I'm going to, this is why I like gloves, is because I could just easily pick them up and add them inside. Now, if you don't have the Vitamix machine, you can use the food processor, a stick blender. Now, I've got a little bit of that, so I could put that in the Vitamix machine if I wanted to, but I'm not going to. Okay. Now, at that point, I'm going to have to remove my gloves. Okay. Now, I want to add a little bit of maple syrup to that. And that's about, well, the top was at, if I can read that, jeez. The top was at 2 ounces, but I didn't do all the 2 ounces, okay? Now I'm going to put the lid on it. And it doesn't take long for this to grind it up. Now you could do ginger if you want to put a little ginger in that. You could put a little ginger. You could put a little lemon. It's whatever you wanted to put in it. You could even maybe put a little bit of milk if you want to. We're trying to stay away from the creamy soup, so we're just going to do the broth. Okay, so now it's blended up. Now I'm going to show you when I put the spoon in how that comes out. Now, how is that for you? You could have it thinner or you could have it thick like this. You can leave it like that if you want, or you can thin it down. In my case, I'm going to thin it a little more. Ooh. Try not to make a mess here. Okay. Now you really want to watch it now because at that point it's pretty well filled up at the top. So I'm just going to blend that a little bit on the lower amount. I think that's good. So now this soup is the carrot soup, and tonight is for a tasting test, and we will decide which soup will be chosen for Thanksgiving night. The grandkids are going to try the carrot soup, and then I've got a butternut squash soup. Now, the grandkids are used to more of the butternut squash ravioli with the butter and the pine nuts and brown sugar sauce for that. But tonight's a different treat for them, so they will have to decide, okay, which one they think is the soup for the Thanksgiving. So now let's see the thickness on this one. Oh yeah, now I find that way better. That, for me, that's perfect. Now, that's all you have to do for the carrot soup. It's done. And I just package it in or put it in these containers, stack them, and take them over. And they can decide which one. Now, when it comes to what we would do is my daughter's granddaughter has a friend that makes sourdough bread. So tonight they're going to have toasted sourdough bread with this, and then we'll probably do a little salad on the side. Maybe just some romaine lettuce, with a little Parmesan cheese and just a regular dressing, not a Caesar dressing, because the grandkids like the ranch. They're really fans of ranch. Whatever makes them happy. That's the name of the game, right? Okay, so that's with the carrot soup. Now let's go back over here to the stove and the oven, and let's talk about the butternut. Now, the butternut squash is a little bit different than the carrots. The butternut squash, when you go to, I like to clean the outside of the squash very well. And so how I do that is I put the warm water on, and I take just a tiny bit of the dod, like the end of your finger, and the squash is wet, and then I take my mushroom brush and I really scrub the whole outside of the squash off, okay? If you don't have a brush, just take maybe a washcloth and just really scrub the outside of it, because you're baking that in the pan, okay? Then I put that in alongside with the carrots. Now the carrots were done after an hour, but the butternut squash was not. I also put olive oil on top of the butternut squash. And then the final thing that I did with the butternut squash is I took a big spoon, and I had my gloves on. And so it was easy for me to handle with gloves too. I took the first part of the seeds out. And then I took and just scooped out the pulp. And that's what I will do with the butternut squash, is do the same thing that I do like the carrots. Now with the butternut squash, you know, you might want to add something different. You could add a little bit of rosemary to it, or you could add sage to it to give it like a little sage flavor. You could even add a little bit of butter if you wanted to. It's whatever you would like, however flavor. And then maybe at the top of it, you might want to put some pine nuts. You might not, because pine nuts can be a bit expensive. But you could do almonds. You know, you could do, and they might be a little bit expensive too nowadays. But if you had some almonds, you could do some toasted almonds on top. You might even want to give your little, your glaze a little swirl on top. It's whatever you want to do. You are the creator. And so that's what you would do. And you would just put the same thing there with the broth, the vegetable broth. If you didn't want to use the vegetable broth, then you could use maybe chicken broth. But if you use chicken broth, remember you will not be able to do that on a meatless Monday, because the chicken is not vegan. It's not meatless either. So there you go, guys. And it's just that simple. So I hope you've enjoyed this video today. And if you have, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, well, please do. Thank you, guys. We'll see you. Bye now.